Well, I think in the short term, people are not increasing pricing because there's just uncertainty, right? 'Cause no one
Mhm,
knows what exactly is going to happen. They don't want to lose consumers. So they're not really increasing pricing. So no one's really feeling it yet.
mhm.
Um, so that's kind of how I feel in the short term because there's just so much uncertainty. In the medium term, people will increase pricing,
Mhm.
um, which will cause inflation to go up.
The introduction to regenerative coffee farming workshops are now available on demand in English, Spanish, and Portuguese. For coffee producers, the workshop is available for just $10, and for everyone else, it's $20. Led by our incredible professors, the workshop is packed with practical knowledge and strategies to help coffee farmers and the entire coffee industry adapt to the challenges of climate change, rising costs, and market demands. If you're a business owner, this workshop is a great and affordable way to inform your employees about the challenges ahead while also supporting Mapper Forward. Head to mapperforward.coffee/workshops or click the link in the description to purchase the on-demand version and start your journey towards a more sustainable coffee future today. Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro by Mapper Forward, friends. I'm your host, Lee Safar, and this is episode 4 of a 5-part series with Mollie Sitkowski. We are talking about the Trump tariffs and their impact on the global coffee industry. We've talked about the impact on small, medium, and large businesses within the United States. We've talked about the implications of these tariffs on businesses that are doing business with the United States. And now what we want to talk about is the consumer, because Molly, it feels to me that the consumer is going to be the hardest hit out of all of this. And what I'm trying to understand is what happens in the short, medium, and long term, because it feels like those timescales are going to have very different ramifications, not only for the consumer, also for the businesses that are involved. But I'm interested to hear what your timescape is with regards to the consumer in the short term, medium term, and long term.
Well, I think in the short term, people are not increasing pricing because there's just uncertainty, right? 'Cause no one
Hmm.
knows what exactly is going to happen. They don't want to lose consumers. So they're not really increasing pricing. So no one's really feeling it yet.
Hmm.
Um, so that's kind of how I feel in the short term because there's just so much uncertainty. In the medium term, people will increase pricing,
Hmm.
um, which will cause inflation to go up. Then the value of the dollar will go down. So then in the long term, it might maybe eventually level. We'll still have increased prices, but it might feel not as bad because the value of the dollar will go down relative to our purchases from other countries, perhaps.
You did that like a ballet dancer. Ever so gracefully, perhaps, because the key message here is we don't fucking know. Correct?
Right.
Okay. So I want to throw something interesting here. If I understand what you're saying
We know
correctly.
the value of the. I was always bad with this in macroeconomics. Actually, no, I probably did that wrong. Anyway, I think inflation will eventually be dealt with in the long term, but things will still go up. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But either way, what you're saying is that the uncertainty is causing some stagnation or some stagflation
Hmm.
in the short
Stagnation
term,
right now. Right.
stagnation right now,
Right.
and then we progress to stagflation
Hmm.
as and right now we're in fears of a recession. We're not in a recession, and as in the medium term, if this doesn't get sorted out, we go into stagflation, and then long term is that recession.
Right. Or even partially medium
If
term.
okay, okay, so a theory that Carly Garner had on the podcast was that this could be deflationary because just because prices go up, if people can't afford to buy them, that doesn't mean that isn't inflationary. That is deflationary. I just miss, folks. If you hear us giggle from now through this, there are emojis coming up on my screen, and I don't know how to turn them off. So if someone can send me a message and tell me how to turn these off, that'd be great.
I liked that one though. And my
sometimes there's balloons, sometimes there's thumbs up.
But that was like a thumb up in like a bubble,
in
like a
bubble,
thought bubble.
in a speech
Yeah.
bubble. Yeah. So what was I saying? We were talking about
it would be deflationary because just because prices go up,
yes.
people wouldn't necessarily
Do you
buy
agree with
things. Well,
because
but I mean, when we're talking about coffee, coffee is a necessity for me.
Right.
I am a mother of small children who work.
For you as a mother, for you as a coffee drinking human, how much would coffee have to go up before you would stop buying it?
Oh God. I don't know. I mean, like basically my husband would have to forbid me from buying it before.
Okay. So
I'd pretty much give up
elastic.
I would give up meat before I gave up coffee. And I love bacon.
Fantastic.
But
we love you, and we will always make sure you have coffee, Mollie. I promise you. But I guess this is where we start to learn the elasticity of products, right? How some things are going to become more elastic, where the price can go up a little further than other things, and consumers will still continue to purchase them, or they'll find, they'll shift their buying habits within that product category. And I expect we're about to see that with regards to coffee. But what I think is going to be really interesting here is that cheap coffee, which comes from countries like Vietnam, is about to get tariffed so high that it's going to shift things a lot. Coffee from Mexico is currently a part of the MCL.
USMCA, yeah.
MCA. So that won't be tariffed, but they don't grow a lot of coffee. Yeah. So it doesn't really matter. It's not going to be enough to make a dent. And the amount of coffee, here's the interesting thing, the coffee that is grown in America, the shittiest of shitty coffee that comes from Hawaii is $19 a pound green. Compared to the futures market, right?
Is very good at growing things, but we do live in Chicago, so I don't know if he could grow it in our backyard.
Not going to work. Okay. Not going to work, love. I'll just give you that heads up. Grow something else. It's not going to work. But when you look at the futures market right now, as we sit here, is sitting at $3.78 for a pound green. So the same quality as that in Hawaii is $19.
Wow.
So this is why people are talking a lot about what's going on in coffee with regards to these tariffs right now, is because it could like, depending on the country of origin, China does grow a lot of coffee now, and it was looking to accelerate that. Clearly coffee won't be, not a lot of coffee is going to go from China into the United States anymore. They'll find other markets.
Well, it can be roasted somewhere else.
So do the tariffs, but the tariffs will, actually that's really interesting, right?
Roasting is a substantial transformation.
Again, folks, not legal advice, right. But very interesting information. So that's very interesting. So if a roaster has a company in Mexico, imports coffee from everywhere else, from let's say Vietnam.
Well, there are different rules for Mexico and Canada. So that you have to separately analyze.
Let's say Costa Rica.
Yeah.
Costa Rica. You bring coffee from China, not that anybody would do that, but let's say that they did, or from Vietnam. You bring coffee from Vietnam into Costa Rica, if that's allowed. You roast it in Costa Rica, you import it into, right, so that would be a 10% tariff as opposed to a 145% tariff.
Mm-hmm. Although there is a bill pending to tariff the things that contain Chinese content. on
You're
the level of
serious?
Chinese content. So it might not work. It's just
Again, not legal
pending,
advice,
right?
folks.
Well,
It's
that's just
pending. And
pending,
all of this could change by the time this
right?
series comes out. Keep tabs on Truth Social, and keep checking the references as we speak about them,
Right.
against Truth Social or the whitehouse.gov website. We encourage you to go and have a great time on that website. Anyway, so with regards to the consumer, a lot of the financial media is talking about how amazing the American economy is doing right now, which just confuses me to no end, because data may say one thing, but consumer sentiment is a completely different thing. When it comes to these tariffs, how have the impact? What has the impact of just the suggestion and the discussion around these tariffs? What has it done to consumers in the United States?
Well, I don't think I'm near that because I spend all day thinking about I will tell you, just based on like discussions with parents at
Yeah.
school, that the average consumer still doesn't understand who pays for tariffs.
So who do they think pays for tariffs? They just
Uh,
simply think,
Other countries,
okay.
because that's what they hear from the President of the United States.
Are companies that you talk to clear about it?
Yes. Oh, the people that I talk to in companies, yes. I
Okay.
have I have had occasions where I have talked to someone like low level in accounting or finance who I'm talking to about mitigating tariffs. And they're like, oh, but the other countries pay the tariffs. And I'm like, no, I am talking to you right now because you, in fact, are paying the tariff.
Wow. A question I don't know if you can answer this, and I should have asked you when we were talking about the businesses inside the United States. When the United States are paying for the goods, can they actually be funded but with loans? Can
So they used to be. So a lot of times
okay.
when you make entry as a business, your customs broker is the one who makes entry
Hmm.
for you. So you hire this
Hmm.
company and they're keen in the entry. And you don't actually see as a company how things get here. And your customs broker used to pay the tariffs, and then your invoice would be from them, and it would show
Hmm.
their price for making entry and then the tariff. So you never
Hmm.
actually saw who paid tariffs. You would just pay your customs broker. But now, because tariffs are so crazy, your customs broker doesn't want to loan you this money anymore. So they're not paying the tariffs for you anymore.
And other banks, you may not know this, but I'll
I
ask it
don't.
anyway. Okay. I should find out how willing the banks are, because the banks have noticed the volatility in the coffee industry and are loaning less money
Mm-hmm.
to anyone in coffee. So I was interested to hear how that was going to go with regards to the tariffs now. Okay. Now, with regards to the long term for the consumer, when it comes to purchasing in supermarkets and in places like that, do we expect that those businesses are going to go and lobby on behalf of the consumer to the government?
I don't, they're not really the importers.
No,
So
but they can't. But they're going to have
maybe,
to pay
well, they're going to see like the
the
percentage
trickle
that
down.
they get. They get the trickle down. I know the food importers are, yes.
Okay. It's just the reason I ask a question
Mhm.
like that is because if people shop at Costco,
Mhm.
they typically buy most of their stuff from
Right.
Costco. If people shop at Walmart, they buy a lot of their stuff from Walmart, right?
Well, yeah, I know Walmart, Target, like their CEOs just recently met with Trump. So like they are lobbying by meeting with Trump. That was reported in the news somewhere. So they are meeting with Trump, whether it's about groceries or just general tariff. I'm sure that's a big conversation that they're having.
Okay. And by your estimation, the likelihood of a recession from all of this?
Oh, when the reciprocal tariffs were at the levels that they were, I was like,
This is
okay,
happening.
girls, we're going through our clothes this weekend.
Yeah.
We're gonna look at what we need for the summer and the fall, and like we're getting
Yeah.
ready.
Yeah. And are you still there?
Not quite as much because I'm pretty sure we're just going to be at a 10% level.
And is 10% in your mind enough to spook the consumer at this moment?
Uh, yes, I would say a general consumer, yes.
Okay. Okay. And one last question about this. When it comes to the economy and when it comes to these tariffs and the consumer, who do we expect that this is going to gut the middle class even further?
I think so. Yeah. I was just talking to someone who's trying to sell their house right now, and they put it on the market right before the tariffs, and they're like,
Ah,
we haven't gotten any
shit.
bites. We sold our house the day, April 9th. And we were
No,
like, we were
that's
like,
awesome.
yeah, we're like the last house to be sold.
Okay. All right. This is wild. Okay. So we have one episode left, folks, and we're going to talk about how companies can mitigate the effects of these tariffs. So join us for the final episode of this series. Peace, love, and peanut butter. Have an amazing rest of your day. I really hope you enjoyed this episode, friends. Please don't forget to show us some love by subscribing, liking, commenting, and most of all, sharing this podcast with your friends. Check the show notes for links, including our sponsors and our Patreon. And stay tuned for more great conversations on the Daily Coffee Pro by Map It Forward.